All right, so we are getting started. Welcome to everybody who is tuning in for our first of what will hopefully be a series of webinar Wednesdays hosted by Naboso Technology. Thank you to everyone who is tuning in. I know you have very, very busy days, and we greatly appreciate your time and dedication to understanding a little bit more about Naboso and, of course, the topic of neurorehabilitation. If this is the first time of tuning in on anything by myself, Naboso, EBFA, which is one of my other companies, just so you know, this will be recorded. So if you happen to get disconnected, you want to listen to it again, this will be recorded and it will be housed on the Naboso YouTube channel. We will also be sending this and some of the video links to everyone who signed up and is tuning in so that you can reference back, you can follow Carl, who's our presenter's work, and learn a little bit more about the topics. The way that this is going to go down is that we will have approximately 35-40 minutes of education, and then after the education we are going to do some Q&A. So if you have any questions that you think of as we're doing the presentation, you may type those in on the questions tab of the control panel. So again, on the control panel you will see the questions tab. Just type those in and we'll go over some questions at the end. We are ready to get started. So very special welcome to our presenter, Carl Sterling, who is the founder and creator of Parkinson's Regeneration Training and the founder of PhysioChain's education company. He's also one of the master instructors for my other company, EBFA, and is an incredible presenter. You guys will very much enjoy what you will be learning in the next 40 minutes or so. I'm going to pass the floor to you, Carl, and we're really looking forward to this.
Well, first of all, thank you. What a beautiful introduction. So thank you so much for the opportunity, Dr. Emily. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in. It's exciting for me to be able to share this information because obviously you'll find out as I go through it, I'm very passionate about it. And there are so many things we can do to help people to move better that maybe some of us don't know about. And I'm always researching, learning, trying to learn more and more and more and raise my skill set, improve that, and share it with others so we can help more people. So we have a lot of information to go over in the next 35-40 minutes. So I'm going to get started. Let's start off with this. Okay. This is an interesting, this is the basis for my program. What I look at in the let's say the world of movement, and I have to say medicine too. I will never knock the medical community, but when it comes right down to it, between let's say the medical community, the physiotherapists, and a lot of personal trainers out there, there's a lot of information that they could acquire, but they don't know it's there yet. There's also, on the left side of this education, filling the void arrow here, right, the spectrum. We also have this goal of filling the education gap. So what this means is we have, let's say, over on the right, functional life for the person that we're talking about. Maybe it's somebody with Parkinson's disease, maybe it's a movement disorder of another type, or they just have trouble moving, or they move well and they want to move better. Well, we have the functional life for these people, okay? We also have on the left side where your medical care, let's say your physio care and medical care, neurology care, whatever it may be, is lacking or maybe is non-existent. I mean, even in the United States, we have some people who struggle to achieve, or I say receive care that they need. I travel all over the world and I find that in many countries, this is a really big issue. So what happens is, as humans, as people, but especially those who are professionals, let's say physical therapists, neurologists, some of the more progressive ones, fitness trainers, movement specialists, we can help to bridge the gap and fill the void between where the medical care is lacking or stops and functional life for the person we're dealing with. So that's the goal for my programs. The whole reason I wrote it is to try to learn more and educate more. So let's move forward. What's our target? Well, back years ago, I didn't think like this because I couldn't. I didn't know this stuff yet. You know, I was doing some typical assessments as a trainer, you know, various types of assessments that are common in a lot of different modalities. And there's relevance to all of these. But I will say that I work mostly with people with movement disorders, and particularly more than anything, people with Parkinson's disease. And no matter who it is, no matter what the issue is, or maybe they don't have an issue, but if they want to move better, my primary target, the first thing I'm thinking about, rather than the traditional assessments and programming, is I want to wake up the nervous system and I want to wake up the brain. This is a huge deal, and you'll discover why as we go through this. So, moving forward, I put this slide in because we are talking about innovations in neurorehabilitation. Now, some of the things that we're going to talk about are products that are relatively new or very new on the market that I have discovered that I like, that we're getting great results with. But there's also stuff that's been around for a long, long time that tends to be underutilized that helps with neurorehabilitation. So remember, let's go back. We're looking at wake up the nervous system and the brain. So let's talk about the brain. Moving forward, all of these things that are listed here, movement, play, music, and learning, science shows, research shows, they are all connected. I can tell you personally, I have a difficult time reading and comprehending. I'm close to figuring out what it is after I went to a vision specialist recently. But bottom line is, I know that if I move, I learn better. So I could listen to an audiobook, let's say, and I'll remember a lot more than I read. And that's maybe irrelevant in some ways. But for me, it's important because at least I'll learn more. But when I really learn more is when I move. I will learn more when I move. And I especially, if I'm doing something I enjoy, like we can call it play. Play is like a big deal, right? People aren't going to do as much movement if they don't like what they're doing. So if we can make it as, let's say, for lack of better words, playful as possible, enjoyable as possible, it's probably going to help them to move more. If they're trying to learn anything, it might help them learn better. But as we go through this tonight, we'll also see that learning has more to do with than just learning something new. We're actually going to be talking about neuroplasticity in the brain, and how we can learn to do new things, all right, to, let's say, improve our movement. And music, when we throw music in the equation, there's a lot of research that shows that we will learn better if we have music. So think about all of these things: movement, play, music, and learning. Think about this in the context of the brain and developing the brain. And as we go through again, this will start to make more sense, especially when we talk about the brain that can change itself. Okay, so that's one neurorehabilitation idea that we use all the time, and it's fantastic. Let's move forward. Now, in particular, with the person with Parkinson's, well, let's say for maybe anybody out there, if they want to move better, they have a movement disorder, they're having problems with movement. It could be like my mother. She had problems walking. She's doing much better now, but our goal is we want to help them move better. There's a demographic of people who are prone to falls. And it's in a lot of different places, but especially with Parkinson's, this is a really big deal. So we want to help them to reduce their fall risk and the number of falls. So if we can create changes and create improvements in improvements in musculoskeletal balance. Also, if we can create improvements in the peripheral nervous system that feeds in through the central nervous system to the brain, then back out to the peripheral. All of this is going to be very helpful. This is our goal. All right, so waking up the nervous system, waking up the brain is going to help to achieve these results. All right, so I do talk a lot about Parkinson's, but let's go through some other things. Let's go right through to the bottom. All humans, what do you know? Well, we're all human, right? We all have a brain. We all have a nervous system. Okay, so we can all benefit from the things that we'll be talking about in neurorehabilitation. Maybe somebody doesn't need neurorehabilitation, but I can promise you we're going to be dealing with the nervous system and helping them to move better. And let's say maybe it's an athlete, improve their performance. All right, let's just take a look. Now, I have this slide in here. I'm going to talk about Alzheimer's and Parkinson's because later I want you to remember these slides and what we talk about in these two slides, because it's very, very, very important when we start to talk about brain health, cardio, and some growth factors. Let's look at the #1 neurological disorder in the world, which is Alzheimer's disease. In this disease, there's a particular part of the brain which has, it's called the hippocampus. This is like it's responsible for a lot of things, but it's especially noticeable when you see that somebody with Alzheimer's is starting to forget things. Well, this is like a memory portion of the brain, one of the portions. We have brain cells that are dying. They're dying in the hippocampus. So memory is, as it says here, impaired, and this will get worse as the disease progresses. The #2 movement disorder or neurological disorder in the world is Parkinson's. So if we look at this, we'll see on the left from the top view of the skull, there's a little area in the brain called the substantia nigra. It's the midbrain area. All right, if we blow that up and look in the upper right, we're going to see that the substantia nigra is shaped a little bit like a butterfly, and you'll see that on a healthy substantia nigra, as you see on the top right, we have dopamine. Well, how do you know? Because that dark substance up there at the top, if you can see my mouse right here, that's dopamine. So this would represent a healthy substantia nigra. The thing is in Parkinson's, this is the area of the brain that is dying. It's losing brain cells. So as they're dying, they produce less dopamine. All right, dopamine's produced in more places in the body than just this area, but this is a primary production center, and also the substantia nigra is a very primal movement control center in the human in humans, right? So what we see here is less dark substance. This means brain cells are dying. They're not providing or producing as much dopamine. Dopamine, the reason it's so important, it's a neurotransmitter. It is a chemical messenger that transfers between brain regions and to the body so that it tells you what you want to do. Like if I want to take a step, I have a healthy substantia nigra, then I can be standing and then I can just take a step and I'm fine. There's no hesitation because the neurotransmitter, the chemical messenger, is working and functioning perfectly, as far as I know, in my brain. If you've seen somebody with Parkinson's, you may realize or have noticed they're frozen. It might take them 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds or longer to take that step. They know they want to do it consciously, but that neurotransmitter is diminished, so the message isn't getting to the leg or the foot or to the nerves in those areas to actually make them move instantly like a healthy person would, right? So that's what's happening in Parkinson's. Substantia nigra losing brain cells, control of movement is impaired. This will get worse as time goes on. So those are the two. Go back to, well, you already saw Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Keep these in mind as we go forward. Sip of water. All right, so not just well, we'll talk about Parkinson's. What is our most immediate concern for people with Parkinson's? That would be falling. They're at a much higher risk of falls and injury. Now, there are quite a few demographics, if you look out there, that are more prone to falling. So this neurorehabilitation, these technologies and products are going to be helpful for everybody. But in Parkinson's, this actually, complications from a fall are actually the #1 cause of death. So we really want to work to wake up the nervous system and the brain to keep them from falling down and hurting themselves. They have twice the fall risk of their peers. In this particular study, everyone in the study had Parkinson's. 38% fell during the study. 13% fell more than once per week. 13% experienced broken bones. 18% went to the hospital. 3% wind up confined to a wheelchair. So you can see that it's very evident that falls can be very bad, and it can cause death, actually, complications from a fall. So we want to keep them from falling. So let's move forward. There are people who are not aware of the risk of falling. And I think this is a really important point. One of the last slides before we get into some of the technologies and products we use to help people to move better and with their neurorehabilitation. I'm sorry if you're seeing anything on my screen here. For some reason, the message is popping up. All right, so there's a thing called the fall awareness spectrum. This is like what this represents is a person's awareness of their likelihood of falling. So over on the left, actually, let me back up for a minute. There are people who have no idea of how likely it is that they will fall. There are some people who are way over to the left and they have what we call fall phobia. They're so afraid of falling, they actually overestimate their risk of falling, and therefore they tend to live a more sedentary lifestyle. And this is not what we want, right? On the other side, we have what we call reckless gait. And I've met people like this. I've worked with people like this. They actually underestimate the risk of falling. They tend to engage in more dangerous activities. And what happens there is they increase their risk of falling and they tend to fall down more. So we don't want either of these sides of the spectrum, so these extremes. What we want is, if you can see my mouse, right here, the little arrow, our awareness of falling should fall right in the middle so that we don't live a sedentary lifestyle, but we get moving and we stay safe moving. There's a link down here which you can click on and you'll be able to go to the actual test. This is a 14 question self-administered test that the client or patient can download. They can fill it out, and then they will now have an idea of their awareness of falling. So in our workshops, this is the next thing that we do. We like to create what we call a shock factor. When we do this, we don't tell anybody what we're doing, because we want this to be the most genuine, real shock factor type of thing, and it's so much fun. All right. So in our workshops, what we would do is take people with Parkinson's and we will gather them up and then send them out of the room. Then we talk with the people who are remaining and we say, okay, we're going to have those people come back in and they're going to walk for us one at a time. We're going to watch. We're going to watch them go 2, 3, 4, 5 laps, whatever it is. We're going to be looking at these things. Okay, we're going to be looking at stride. Is it even or uneven? What's the stride length? How does their center of gravity look? Has their posture way forward? Do they drag their feet? Arm swing, reciprocal arm swing. And if they do, are they swinging from the shoulder, where would be ideal, or is an elbow flexion? And things like that. We want to look at their rotations. We look at these things. Then what we do is, okay, I'm going to go back. We look at these things, we observe. So now we have obviously we have the people with Parkinson's come back into the room, and I take this off and I go back to here because I don't want them to cheat and try to look good walking. We're looking for these things. After each person has gone and people have just quietly taken their notes, we put in Naboso insoles. I always have them with me, and we put them in their shoes. We say, sorry, Dr. Emily, here's what I say, because like I say in my workshops, I wasn't ridiculous, I'd be boring. So I choose to be ridiculous. I say, let's take these silly insoles and let's put them in the shoes. I have these bumpy things. I don't even know. Let's put them in. So we take off the socks, the shoes, put in the insoles, put them back on. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I'm going to show you a few short videos, and then I'm going to explain exactly what's going on. So, this is a lady in Mexico. I go to Mexico a lot. She has Guillain-Barré syndrome. If you look on the left, you're going to see her walking in normal footwear. Just like in the workshops, we have people walk in normal footwear first. You also see her on the treadmill. She was bedridden back in January. The thing about Guillain-Barré is it is one of those diseases that can go into remission and people can come out of it. She started moving more in January a little bit. If you look, you'll see on the left, normal footwear. On the right, you see she's already back to us here on the top right? I think when I figured it out, she was 8 seconds faster. We didn't ask her to run on the right, okay? We did not ask her to run. I'm going to go back to this for a second. We just asked her to walk. Okay, so I may not get back to that. My apologies. Haha. My apologies for some. Here it is. Okay. Well, no. Okay, so let's move forward. She started running on her own. That's just the way it went. I mean, we weren't going to stop her from doing that. She felt so good. So this is Georgiana. Georgiana has Parkinson's disease. She, same thing on the left. Shorter stride, not quite as good a posture. She's moving okay on the upper left video, but she's moving a lot better in the upper right. You see some arm swing starting to happen, right? More arm swing, velocity. Now, I actually stood back farther on the top right video. You can see longer stride length on the bottom right video. I want to try to get this one very important one I want to get here. This one, Maricela. Okay, she has a condition called generalized dystonia. This poor lady is in such agony. She walked in with Ruben, one of my instructors, helped her a lot, and you'll see he was helping her. She could not walk by herself. She walked into the workshop in Monterrey, Mexico, with assistance. We put in Naboso insoles, and not only does she have difficulty walking, her feet were so distorted looking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. Just all different, like hammer toes, crossover toes, foot drop, all this stuff. She had slippers on, but you can see here, she's gone from 2 hands to 1 hand, and then at the end, look at this. There she is. All by herself, walking for the first time alone in a long time. All right, let's move forward to Marissa. Marissa, I met in Mexico in San Luis Potosi. She is a world champion figure skater. She had surgery on her brain, her cerebellum area. She could not walk on her own. This was back in June for the surgery. And then 6 weeks later, I saw her in San Luis Potosi. At the left, you'll see that she has a very difficult time with sway, and then this rotation is really tough for her on the left. Upper right, she's all rotating back already. I mean, this was amazing. And I didn't follow her out the door, but she actually started walking by herself outside. So I think there's 2 more here. This is Angeles. Angeles is a friend. We put in Naboso in Monterrey, Mexico. We put in Naboso, went outside and started walking. 5 minutes later, no kidding, 5 minutes later, she starts to run. She said, I have to run. I have to run. So I happened to be with her, so I ran behind her, and then I tried to catch up with her. This is a lady who came in completely feeling completely defeated by Parkinson's. Spent most of last year in bed. Now she's running almost every day. And I was there about 6 weeks ago. She and her husband and daughter and I went hiking Mount Topo Chico, and she left us in the dust when we were running up the trails. This is a lady whose life has gone 180 degrees in the positive direction. And I have one more, actually two more, but it's the same person. This is one of my favorites. This is Maria Salinda. Now, I have to explain before I start the video. On the left, I saw her at the clinic. She could only walk with assistance with her son or a walker. And then here she's holding on the treadmill. I'll start this in a minute. I need to explain this first because it happens fast. And she has her disease pathology has caused her to have tremendous amount of toe extension. She walks on her toes. Okay, so we have her there for video analysis. 2 days later, upper right, you're going to see the lady in the tank right here. This is her also. Not more than 5 minutes of wearing the boso, and she's walking heel to toe. 15 minutes later, look down here, she's running. This was the first time she had run in 15 years. Now, she is crying there, and her son's there on the right, and Jeanette's there, and I was coming around with the camera. We're all in tears because we're so happy because this woman has her movement back. I also want to just say that Angeles earlier, first time in 17 years running. She's 42, said Parkinson's, she was 25. Let's do one more. This is Maria Salinda as well. I was getting off the plane in San Francisco about 6 weeks after seeing her. She sent me a video. She's back to work after many years, and here she is in her lab coat. She's a doctor. She teaches at a university. She teaches chemistry. She's a chemist. She's walking, working, carrying her coffee and not spilling it, and has her life back. So let's move forward into the real meat and potatoes right now, because this stuff is why I do what I do. All right. I came in this business to help people, to help them help make a difference so they can hopefully get their life back. Well, what the heck just happened? We put in these bumpy insoles, and you saw all that stuff happen. Well, first of all, we need to learn. This is my absolute #1 favorite tool, far and above any other tools, any Naboso products, the insoles, the mats, anything. Because the way Dr. Emily, I was remember being with her years ago in Hoboken, and her showing me a prototype, said, it's good, but it's not right. Well, this is right. You got it right, my friend, because this stuff is working amazing. It helps. So we know that the nervous system always works collaboratively. It likes to organize over a goal that it wants to achieve. And if the firing doesn't happen in a certain timing, in a certain order, then movement will not look right. It will look awkward, right? So optimal, when we think about training people, I'm not thinking about machines and weights and body weight, not first. I'm thinking about wake up the nervous system, because this optimal firing is far more important to help you move than to have great strength in areas that can't coordinate movement together, right? So you could be all big and bulky and do an Arnold thing, and that's cool, right? I wish I could do that. But I'm not, doesn't mean I'm going to walk better or move better. It's not going to reduce my fall risk. So we want to be training to create optimal firing patterns in our brain and in our nervous system. Naboso technology is one of the ways to get there. Why is that? Well, there's a whole lot we could talk about with this. That's why Dr. Emily has these amazing workshops, level 1, level 2, and the rehab specialist and all that. But a brief summary in one slide, here's the way I look at it. Plantar skin stimulation, Naboso or not, you're going to receive so many benefits, because this plantar skin is so highly densely populated, and if I remember correctly, I think it might be the most highly densely populated with small nerve sensory and mechanoreceptors. I think there are 4 kinds, so I don't remember the jobs they do. I just know that this is the area we want to concentrate on, because they're directly connected to the central nervous system and the cerebellum. So when we do barefoot movement, we wake up those nerves that they're not dead, but they've gone dormant because we've been wearing shoes and socks for decades. Some people never go barefoot, and they think it's weird to go barefoot until they do it, and then they move better, and now they're happy, right? So it helps us to wake up and pre-activate the nervous system and the brain, helps us to create better anticipatory responses and better reflexive stability, which if you don't know about those, you must go to EBFA workshops where they talk about this in great detail. It's amazing information. And my favorite thing about it is it's immediate. All of the videos that you saw tonight, these are immediate results. This happened within a minute or less. It's immediate because that's how fast we can wake up the nervous system and the brain. When we wake them up, we get faster firing time, better movement stability. I mean, the feedback I have from both the insoles, I've sold over 400 pairs now, so I have a lot of experience with this. We have more stable, more secure, more balanced, more confident. It's amazing. So when it comes to technology or products, my number one go-to is Naboso, any Naboso product. All right, so let's move forward. One of the things that's really good about this is that when we move better, we feel better. We've got a lot to go through in the next 8 minutes. We also tend to move more when we're more confident about our movement. So we know that in Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, and probably a lot of other stuff, cardio is the best known method of exercise to slow disease progression and to delay disease onset, okay? Cardio, elevating the heart rate, just a side note from Stony Brook University, Dr. Lisa Moratori, it would be the equivalent intensity of walking as fast as you can for 30 minutes every single day, and that's all you need to do, because what happens is it creates this really cool stuff called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So not only does it create BDNF, it gets blood and oxygen going to the brain, and it helps to improve cardiovascular conditioning, which is oftentimes very compromised in people with movement disorders. So this is a side note, though, but we are talking about cardiovascular, right? Well, in Parkinson's, side note, number 2 cause of death, people in Parkinson's disease in that population are complications from a breathing issue, pneumonia in particular. So if we can get our cardiovascular improved, it's going to help us. So what about BDNF? What's so cool? Well, first of all, if we look at BDNF expression, when we're on the right side, which is an active state, so we're elevating our heart rate, we actually have increased neuron activity. It's like nature's antidepressant. We can start to realize more what we call neurogenesis. We can help cell survival in our brains. Versus on the left, where you're not moving, you're not creating BDNF, you're more likely to have depression, be sedentary, less neuron activity, more stressed out, more anxiety, and all that. So what's so great about BDNF? If you read a book called Spark by John Ratey, R-A-T-E-Y, Harvard professor, he's written many books, The User's Guide for the Brain, and Spark and Go Wild are my 3 favorite books of his. He also talks about barefoot a lot in Go Wild, which is really cool. It's called Miracle Grow for the Brain. So you get your heart rate elevated for this 30 minutes, right? What happens is it's a growth factor. It helps to keep chemicals in the system for longer. There's a better chance of uptake of chemicals like medications. And it helps to prevent cell death. And in addition to that, so I have to make a disclaimer, doesn't mean we're going to stop a disease, but we can probably slow the progression, maybe delay the onset of disease. BDNF is produced obviously best by the direct cardio exercise. It helps to promote long-term maintenance so that these disease does not progress as quickly. It may allow medications to be taken into the system faster and stay longer, and may give birth to new brain cells, especially the hippocampus and the olfactory bulb. So this is where I go back to the first couple of slides, well, earlier slides about Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Special note, anything I say is not intended to replace medications. It's meant to complement them. All right. So let's talk about this. Remember we talked about Alzheimer's and what's going on with the hippocampus. Well, guess what? There's a study that came out with the Maria Shriver Foundation a year and a half, 2 years ago, shows that people with early onset Alzheimer's who do cardio every day are getting their memory back. And I can tell you, out of 9 people that I've been following in Mexico since early July, after 6 weeks, 5 of them reported improved sense of smell. Well, maybe that's because, let's go back, BDNF. Let's go back to the beginning. They're moving more because they woke up the nervous system with Naboso insoles. They're getting their heart rate elevated. They're creating BDNF. They're slowing disease progression. And maybe they're giving new birth to new brain cells through BDNF and through all this cardio to their olfactory bulb, which is the area for sense of smell. I don't know. I'd like to do a study on this, though. I just know that they're happy and they're moving and they feel so much better. They've gotten their lives back. Now, let's move towards another thing. I'll just say real quickly, my favorite thing to use for posture is kinesiology tape. In particular, I like rock tape. It's really good. As trainers, we can use it within our scope of practice if we're approaching it from the standpoint of external cueing. We're not treating pain, although pain reduction might be a side benefit. Vibration therapy is cool. We're going to blast through here. We only got 2 or 3 minutes left of slides. Through vibration therapy, we can wake up the plantar skin. I like to actually have people use the Naboso mat or use the insoles while they hold this vibrating ball. We know that going back here, a lot of times we'll see people at a workshop, we give them a vibrating ball for 5 minutes. If they have a tremor, a lot of times 5-10 minutes later, tremor is gone. This is a temporary fix, but it helps them if they're trying to do something. Maybe they want to eat or button a button or write, and so they hold the ball for 5-10 minutes, tremors go away, they can do those things better. It helps to relieve constipation. Many times myofascial release is more effective with vibration. We also know it helps with various types of dystonia, restless leg syndrome, and many other things. So vibration therapy is wonderful. If you go to my website, which you'll see at the end, get a paper written by a neurologist friend of mine, Dr. Alfonso Pisano, about the positive effects of vibration therapy. And he has one of these hypersphere balls. He loves it. Anyways, the power plate is another one. Now, Dr. Emily has something going on with power plate in using her Naboso surface, which I haven't seen yet. And I really want to see that. And I want to use that and try it because that just seems like a beautiful combination of power plate with Naboso surface. Power plate is awesome. Quanta therapy. These are 1-inch round discs. I'm just going to say real quick, we have had absolutely amazing results with quanta therapy, frequency therapy. It's absolutely amazing. I won't spend much time on it right now, but if you want information, I am one of their instructors, and I teach and wrote their Parkinson's program. So we're finding extreme benefits with this, especially with the dopamine patches, the leptin patches, and other things. NeuroConnect is a set of clips, 3 clips. I actually have mine on right now. Basically, this NeuroConnect is another therapy that I like. You can just read through here. Basically, it's the specialized nerve receptors in muscles and joints. This helps to kind of create a pathway, wake those up faster. This thing somehow triangulates, and it just gives a nice, clear nervous system passage. It just causes your brain to wake up in your nervous system, and it's really awesome. When we use this in combination with Naboso, it's fantastic. Another thing, though, it's not an actual tool or product, but it's been around a while. This is the last thing. Cognitive training. Well, why is that such a big deal? Well, because if we're having trouble, if distractions are causing us to fall, like when we have Parkinson's disease, we know that the substantia nigra is still functioning, but it's outsourcing to the cerebellum and other areas to develop as a movement control center or a better movement control center. Why? How? Because neuroplasticity. The brain has this amazing ability to reorganize and create new neural firing patterns to adapt as needed. Okay? Think about when you ride a bicycle. The first day you rode, if you're like me, you fell over and you had 2 bloody knees. Well, yeah, my mother was worried and it was pretty bloody and awful, but after a week or two, I was good at it. That's because every time I got on, I was doing this, creating synapses between neurons that actually ended up being into neurons that fire together, because they fire together, would be my bicycle riding neural pathway, was solidified and it wires together and then it stays there. And unless you have, some type of injury or a stroke, that's always going to be there. And that's why when you're not riding your bicycle for a few years, but then you get back on, there's that saying, oh, it's like just like riding a bike. Yeah, that's because the neural firing pattern is still there. It's just a little bit rusty, it's dormant. So you get on the bike and in 5-10 minutes it's woken up. You didn't have to like relearn to ride and take 2 weeks to do it. So why is this important? It's because during focused movement, we want to train. I do this with everybody. It doesn't matter who it is, but I especially do it with movement disorders. We want to train the cerebellum to be a better multitasking device. All right. So during focused movement, we can do various forms of cognitive training. Things like saying names of friends, family. The other day I had one of my clients, Jerry, we're doing hand-eye coordination. He's jumping lateral through an agility ladder, single leg, zigzag, and I say a state, he names the capital, and then he spells the capital forwards and backwards. Say the alphabet backwards, do math equations. That's direct recall. We can do spatial awareness. Jerry, how do you get to your neurologist's office from here? That makes the brain fire differently, the cerebellum fire differently than direct recall. And then, of course, decision making is fun because we can do all kinds of things to have people cause them to have to decide something very quickly. Maybe it's cueing punches, like hit me right, left, or it's opposite. I say right, you hit left. I say green, you hit blue, whatever it is. When we do this, what happens is we have focused movement and cognitive, and we create more of this stuff, neural firing patterns. And then this actually helps with our dual tasking, because dual tasking is one of the primary reasons that people fall down, especially with movement disorders. So if we can do as many varieties of these things during focused movement to create new neural firing patterns, it's going to help them to move better, reduce fall risk, and hopefully reduce or eliminate falls. Last thing here of cognitive, I kind of got this from Dan Edwards of Parkour Generations. We do parkour for Parkinson's when I teach at his facility over there, because you have to figure out with a parkour object, how am I going to go past it? Under it, around it, over it, or through it. So it involves decision making and spatial. So it's a combination, and it's really cool, and we have so much fun with parkour for Parkinson's. People love it. Now, let's move forward. There's a couple other things you can do. I'm almost done. We can have people, if anyone wants this slideshow, well, you'll see it because you can go back and look at it. So I'm not going to read through this because I want to leave time for Q&A. This will be recorded so you can go back and you watch, but check out this slide. There's things that you can do here. There's more you can do here. We know that like one of the best things to do, I like to put in the most Naboso insoles. I want to have them doing stuff that makes their head move so the vestibular is activated, that their eyes are tracking, so we have visual going on during a focused movement, and then add on maybe some hand-eye coordination too, plus cognitive challenges. These done simultaneously on propriocephaly enriched stimulation environment like Naboso mat or whatever. We put agility mat, 2 mats or 3 mats down, and we'll have people jumping through agility ladders on the Naboso mat. That is really fun. I just thought of that and I had to tell you. So remember, in this deeper brain stimulation side, do as many things as you can. Remember to be safe. Safety first. Do what your client can, not what they can't. You want to challenge them, but you don't want to hurt them. So you may have to start out with just something and then layer. Build layers and layers on top. All right, so as we come to an end, the last device I'll show you is the Witty Neural Brain or NeuroTrain at Project Move. has a similar system. It's not this system, but we use it for reactive training. There are many systems out there. They're doing some great stuff over there at NeuroTrain. Basically, it's the lights light up and it's reactive training. I think probably originally designed for athletes, but we do it with people. We do it with everybody. All right, so I think that's, oh, it's not it. This is out of my scope of practice, but just know that there's a thing called the Portable Neuromodulation Stimulator, PANS. As far as I know, it was recently approved by the FDA because of the cranial nerve 7 and the cranial nerve 5. When you put the PANS, it looks like this. Oh, maybe I don't have a picture of it. There it is. It goes under your tongue. And then this pathway through those nerves to the brain creates a wake-up call, and it is absolutely amazing what people are seeing with this. Now, I'm not sure as a trainer that I can do anything with this, but just know, tell your people, go to your doctor and ask about the PANS, because they're going to be happy if they get one of these. And that is it. So thank you so much. I went a little over. I'm terribly sorry, but there's a lot to talk about. This is where you can get me, my email. You can WhatsApp or text me. Parkinson's Regeneration Training.com. If you want to sign up for a workshop, we would love to have you attend. I promise you a life-changing experience. I also have an education website, which I didn't put this code, but if you write the code INTRO OFFER, INTROOFFER, all one word, in the coupon thing, it'll take it from $15 a month to $10 a month. We have hundreds of videos talking about all the things that we do. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Thank you, Dr. Emily, very, very much. I am ready for any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carl. That was super informative and very jam-packed with information in.
Oh my God, yes.
Thank you. So if you guys have any questions, I would encourage you to type those in the questions tab, and then we'll go through a few of those in the next couple minutes. While you guys are thinking of some of the different questions that you might have, I will mention that the Naboso insoles that Carl was using in the videos that he demonstrated was the Naboso 1.5. So I get asked that a lot when we share the videos and we discuss the videos that Carl had shared with us and was discussing, is that was with the 1.5. We also do have the Neuro, which Carl has started integrating with some of his Parkinson's clients to see some of the different results. All right, hold on, Carl. Let me see if there's any questions. So are there any particular combination of devices or therapies that makes cognitive training more effective? So what combination, I guess, would you get the most out of cognitive training?
Oh, let's see. That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to be doing some type of focused, challenging movement. And it should probably, they have a test in the neurology world they do where you just walk and you walk down the hallway and you turn your head left, you turn your head right, you turn back and forth. You could just be doing that and doing a cognitive type of exercise like was described there. As far as combinations, I think it really depends upon the person you're working with and what their level of ability is, because you will find that cognitive decline is quite common in many neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's, and especially Parkinson's. So you just have to assess where they're at with what they can do and then just build onto that and progress. As far as combinations go, I just try all kinds of different movements. I try to include either Naboso in their shoes or have them do it on a mat, so we get that stimulation, and just start getting creative with different types of cognitive training during the movements.
Okay, excellent. Carl, if you don't mind going forward one slide, I want to mention the discount code. Yes, so for everyone who has tuned in, We are offering a 10% off any purchase through Naboso using the code WWNAB. Enter that code, you would get 10% off. And as we wrap up, last thing that we'll wrap up with is, Carl, could you tell everyone about your book?
Yes. The book is coming along very nicely, and I still owe you an outline because you're so kind of being considering contributing to it, which will be an honor for me. This book is what I intend for it to be, and the way it's looking is a massive resource, similar to the workshops. I forgot to say this in the beginning. I'll just say it now. I've never found like a bad Parkinson's program or anything, but what I find is I just find that so much information out there. It's missing so much. It's missing. It's incomplete. And you know, my program's as complete as I know how to make it be, but I know it's not where it'll be in 6 months or a year or 10 years from now. And I'm glad. But the book is going to be a really, really good resource for people with Parkinson's, anyone interested in Parkinson's or working with people with Parkinson's. I haven't officially named it yet, but it's probably going to be Parkinson's Regeneration Training with some type of subtitle. And we have many, many wonderful contributors. Perry Nicholson wrote the foreword, just a beautiful foreword. Many neurologists who have contributed about falls, fall risks, breathing, ventilatory parameters. Oh man, we have a lot of medical people who've contributed. So yeah, the book, it's a work in progress, but just stay tuned because it's happening.
Excellent. So I would suggest everyone follow Carl, follow him on social media, or follow Physio Chains and get yourself into one of his trainings. Carl, thank you so much for your time and dedication to really helping positively impact lives. And I mean, seeing those videos honestly makes me tear up every time. So thank you for your hard work.
Can I add one more thing? Because this is so important, just 30 seconds. Take some of these people who come in and they can't roll over. Like Angeles couldn't roll over. For 5 years, she never rolled over by herself. So we taught her how to roll. This is a modified Dr. Perry pattern. It's a modified Grape Cook pattern, but it works. So she came in feeling, this happens all the time though. She comes in feeling defeated, and her husband dragged her into the workshop. She wasn't going to come. As soon as she rolled for the first time in 5 years, she became a fighter. And then we put Naboso insoles in her shoes. Now, this happens with so many people, but I was just talking about her because it was just an amazing turnaround. So when this happens, and she starts running now for the first time in 17 years, and she can roll over. And last year she was bedridden. This year she's running. Her whole emotional state changes. The family's emotional, mental state changes. Now she's back to work. I mean, this ripple effect is huge. And what's probably more important than the movement itself is the psychology and the emotions behind it. Because when you feel better, you're probably going to move more because you're more positive. So I really have to, my hat's off to you so much for what you've done, because you've helped me to help people, to help themselves, to turn everything around. And it's absolute, you just can't even imagine the impact this has. It's very deep.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to everyone who has supported Naboso in our journey, and for your dedication in human movement and helping others. And if you are a consumer or a patient tuning in, thank you as well. Have a great night. Have a great day. And we hope to see you on another Webinar Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you.